Good morning. Migration has always been a fact for Europe, and it will always be. Throughout centuries, it has defined our societies and shaped many of our lives. And this will always be the case. Migration is complex. The old system to deal with it in Europe no longer works. The Commission's package on migration and asylum, which we present today, offers a fresh start. Many legitimate interests have to be brought into balance. We want to live up to our values and at the same time face the challenges of a globalized world. Europe has to move away from ad hoc solutions and put in place a predictable and reliable migration management system. I'm convinced that the Commission's proposal is a good foundation for that. This package reflects a fair and reasonable balance between responsibility and solidarity among member states. We all share the benefits. We all share the burden. This package also reflects a very pragmatic and realistic approach. We know that we have to build trust among member states and citizens' confidence that we can manage this as a union. The package reflects the complexity of the issue as it brings together all aspects of migration, border management and screening, asylum and integration, return and relations with external partners. And finally, the Commission's proposal builds on the different geographical situations, the different capabilities and choices of European member states, but also takes into account that the pressure on our borders is varying. And this results in a new balance between responsibility and solidarity. It is not a question whether member states should support with solidarity and contributions, but how they should support. Moria is a stark reminder. We need to find sustainable solutions on migration, and we all have to step up. The European Commission is ready to step up as well. We want to provide rapid assistance. We will set up a joint pilot with the Greek authorities in Lesbos for the management of a reception center. To implement this, we decided on a task force today. With the support of our EU agencies, this task force will help improve conditions for people on the island in a durable manner. Together, we have to show that Europe manages migration in a humane and effective way. The European Union has already proven in other areas that it can take extraordinary steps to reconcile diverging perspectives. We have created a complex internal market, a common currency, and an unprecedented recovery plan to rebuild our economies. It is now time to rise to the challenge to manage migration jointly with the right balance between solidarity and responsibility. In a few minutes, Vice President Schinas and Commissioner Johansson will present more detailed information on the migration package in the press room. Thank you. Wait a minute. Sure. Can I have a pen?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the college readout of the meeting which took place this morning, Wednesday, 23rd of September. I will give the floor to Vice President Schinas, who will do the college readout, and after that he will present, together with Commissioner Johansson, the Pact on Migration and Asylum, which was discussed this morning by the college. Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Welcome. Let me indeed start with the rest of the college agenda before taking you into the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. Today, the college discussed the upcoming action plans on the Capital Markets Union and the Customs Union, and the new ambitious package on digital finance. Developing our capital markets and ensuring access to market financing will be essential in helping Europe recover from the crisis, and this action plan precisely shows the way out. The digital finance package will boost EU competitiveness and innovation in the financial sector. It will give consumers more choice and opportunities in the financial services and modern payments. My colleague Valdis Dombrovskis will hold a press conference on this package tomorrow after midday. And finally, the new Customs Union Action Plan will make EU customs smarter, more innovative and more efficient, and it will help protect EU revenues and the security, health and prosperity of our citizens and businesses. And our colleague, Commissioner Paolo Gentiloni, will present this package to you on Monday. On other business, the Commission has also decided to create a task force to resolve and help alleviate the emergency situation on Lesbos following the fires at the Moria camp. This new task force will implement a joint pilot with the Greek authorities for new reception facilities, and in line with the framework proposed today in the new pact, which we will present to you in a minute, this task force will help ensure that migration is managed in an effective way, including adequate living conditions, more certainty, faster procedures, and more balanced responsibility and solidarity sharing. The task force will be based in DG Home and will operate under the responsibility of the Commissioner Johansson, but of course this is the result of a series of consultations and discussions that President von der Leyen herself, together with Prime Minister Mitsotakis and Chancellor Merkel, had the opportunity to have these last days. The Commission official who will lead this task force, not to do with the task force, but we have an appointment in DG Home that I also need to announce, which is not related to the task force, is we have a new Deputy Director General in DG Home, and this is our Austrian colleague, Johannes Luchner. Congratulations to him. Finally, before we go to the pact, on the occasion of the International Day of Sign Languages, I'm happy to announce that today's press conference will also be interpreted into International Sign Language. And we will strive to interpret all weekly college readouts into sign language in the future. So stay tuned. Let me now move quickly to the main policy file of today's agenda, the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. This is an important moment. You know that this is one of the most emblematic flagship initiatives of the von der Leyen College. You know that this has been a long time in the making, but the time for action is now. The problems we see on migration, on Moria, elsewhere, are not because of Europe, but that precisely because they simply symbolize the cost of non-Europe. So the time for action is now, and we are presenting today, together with a Commissioner, a compromise, a landing zone able to bring about an agreement. You have seen and you know well that this is not something that we hatched up bilaterally here at the Berlaymont, but this is the result of extensive consultations and listening exercises. We travelled with the Commissioner to all EU capitals. We met all ministers, heads of state and government. We spent weeks at the European Parliament, and we feel that what we are presenting today crystallizes all the input we received in this long consultation process. In migration, no member state has the same way of experiencing the phenomenon. There are different angles, there are different priorities, there are different voices, there are different views, there is different geography. Each of our member states faces different and unique challenges. And I would also say that no one's concerns are more legitimate than the others. They all deserve to be recognized, acknowledged, and addressed. And that's precisely what we are doing today. We have also learned the lessons of 2016, the wounds of 2016, and the failure of the European Union to foster an agreement then is also very present with us. That's why we need to start with everyone on board and everyone around the table. As the President said minutes ago, solidarity and responsibility are the two pillars that guide this package. And in Europe, solidarity and responsibility should never be a binary choice. Otherwise, if we allow this to become a binary choice, it would be like this Spielberg movie, Back to the Future, where you travel to the future only to encounter the problems of the past. So, the essence of the new package, and I think the easiest way to describe it is like a house with 3 floors. The first floor is a very strong external dimension centered around strengthened partnerships with countries of origin and transit. The second is a robust management of our external borders. And the third is firm, fair internal rules of solidarity so that those who are under pressure can have the certainty that the rest of the family can give them a hand. Very quickly to take you through the 3 main floors, and then the Commissioner will provide more detail on each of them. I'm starting with the external dimension and the relations with countries of origin and transit. Europe needs neighbours, partners in the world to manage migration flows, and the change of paradigm we are presenting today will mean that we will work upstream with all our partners to make sure that this is the case. Since 2015, we have dedicated over 9 billion euros to support refugees and migrants outside the EU, providing life-saving assistance to millions of vulnerable people, supporting host communities and international organizations. What we will be doing with countries of origin and transit will have a double objective. First, to help them help their people so that they can have a better life with more opportunities in their countries instead of putting their lives in the hands of the smugglers in the Mediterranean or the Aegean. And second, we want to do more for their countries themselves so that we can help them break the business model of the smugglers, help them establish better, effective border management, asylum and reception systems, returns and readmissions. And with the pact, you will see that we are stepping up cooperation in all these areas. And in our relations with third countries, this will be based on win-win partnerships. We will support these partnerships in a way that makes sense for both these countries and ourselves. And this will include strategic, flexible, policy-driven funding from the EU. And as you know, in our proposals for the Neighbourhood Development International Cooperation Instrument, which comes with the unpronounceable abbreviations NDICI, we already have reserved over 70 billion euros including a 10% target for migration-related action. On the second floor, the robust management of the external borders. There will be new and mandatory screening at all borders of all arrivals under the new system. Currently, the only obligation is for a member state to take the fingerprints of someone who arrives irregularly and simply registers. Under the new pact, all arrivals will be subject to a thorough security, health and identity check, and this will allow for immediately directing people immediately to the right procedure. In a second stage, all those unlikely to get asylum will have to go, because they come from countries with a low recognition rate, they will have to go through mandatory fast-track border procedures with streamlined processes for dealing quickly with asylum claims and efficiently processing returns. This will create a seamless procedure at our external border, which ensures people are quickly guided to the right procedure and avoids black holes and bottlenecks like the ones we're having in the current system, or may I say, in the current non-system. And this will be, of course, the emphasis on borders will be complemented by a new European ecosystem geared towards effective returns, with a new EU coordination on returns in DG Home under Commissioner Johansson, and Frontex playing a role, a much more operational role, becoming an operational arm on border management. And as we proved in Evros at the beginning of March, Europe can now effectively ensure border management. Finally, on the third floor of our theoretical house, you will find firm but fair internal rules and solidarity. You know, the President said it nicely. She said, we are not discussing whether we will have solidarity, but how this solidarity will provide it. So we have devised a system of permanent, effective, constant solidarity that would give at all times the assurance that the member state that is under a specific type of situation can obtain the level of help that needs from the system. So this strong solidarity mechanism will, of course, not ignore the red lines, but we have looked for a solution between the red lines. And we have done so by introducing a new concept, which we call returns sponsorship, that allow to do something that is new. And let me take a minute to explain. This is a concept that seeks to balance out competing interests. We know that all member states will never accept mandatory relocation. That's one thing we know already. At the same time, relocation, and not only sending help or border guards, is what really alleviates pressure from member states facing high numbers of arrivals. So with this return sponsorship, we are providing a viable alternative to ensure that even if they are not relocated, the same numbers can be catered for. And the member state under pressure, we can ask for the member states willing to perform this return sponsorship help, and that would take the system into some sort of balance and equilibrium. And sponsoring member states, of course, will be able to focus on nationalities where they see a better chance of completing returns. And the system will always allow for this interdependence between an alternative to relocation and effective support. And depending on the level of pressure and the ability of our systems to cope, we are confident that we will at all times provide this assurance of permanent, constant, effective solidarity. And the solidarity situation will be structured along three work streams, three typologies of solidarity. Depending on the situation that the member state finds itself, can activate the relevant procedures, and we have identified and we're proposing three work streams for this. a crisis situation, a search and rescue situation, and a situation of pressure or risk of pressure. For each of these three strands, we will have specific criteria for effective and permanent solidarity. We are not stopping there. We do not forget that there are a number of elements that we will continue to prepare and will come out at a later second stage. First, Schengen. We do not forget that this is the most important, most crucial of the topics, and we will present next year a strategy for the future of Schengen. And legal migration, something that we want to be very ambitious on, but which deserves its own moment, its own narrative, divorced from the discussions on irregular migration. This is why today we have launched a public consultation to gather views on this topic, and proposals will follow next year. Let me conclude. This is a new system. It's a new, fresh beginning. It is a connected whole. Everything connects to everything else. And we are confident that this new European framework can allow for a rational, proper, logical management of migration policy in Europe. We have withdrawn and drawn a line under the former Dublin system. It was symbolic of an era that is different. Dublin was meant for very few asylum seekers fleeing dictatorship from southern Europe. Dublin was not meant to face up the challenges of global migration Europe is facing today and will continue to face in the future. Let me finish with saying that we are very proud of the European Union. We are the biggest and the better regulated market in the world. We have the second global currency. We have universal systems of education, of health. We have no death penalty. We take care of our elderly. We have a fantastic recovery plan based on a new novel approach. It's unthinkable that this Europe in 2020 still does not have a proper, single, cohesive migration and asylum policy. We hope that today is the beginning of a process that will take us there.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Commissioner, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Migration has defined our societies for centuries, enriched our cultures and shaped our lives. So said President von der Leyen in her State of the Union speech. And I think this is very crucial. Migration is normal. Migration has always been here. Migration will always be here. Sometimes in the debate we try to make a link between migration and crisis, but most of the migrants that come to the European Union come here legally. Last year, 2.4 million migrants got a resident permit in the European Union. Most of them because they fell in love with the EU citizen and they marry, but also for other family reasons, to work here, to study here, and also some that got asylum. Last year, around 1 million left the European Union. And that means that we have an extra 1.5 million people coming to the European Union every year. And we need them because we're an aging society. And many of those are being European citizens. Last year, almost 700,000 new European citizenship were issued. So this works quite well, I should say, and we need migration. But on the headlines in the news is of always what's not worked so well. And that is the situation with the irregular arrivals. Last year we had 140,000 irregular arrivals to the European Union. And this is really what we are addressing now in our proposal to manage in a much better way. And I think that when we are discussing the proposal that we now have put on the table, I understand that a lot of people still are in the mood of the situation in 2015, but we are not there. In 2015, we had 1.8 million irregular arrivals to the European Union, and almost all of them were refugees. As I said, last year, 140,000 irregular arrivals, and a minority of them, 1/3, were refugees. The others are not refugees, and they will have a negative asylum decision and a return decision. And that shows also what we need to address better is the effectiveness on returns and readmission to the countries of origin. What we need to do is to move away we need fewer irregular arrivals and instead have more regular arrivals. That's why we have to focus on legal pathways, both for migrants to come to contribute to our economy and for refugees that need international protection. And I'm very proud that the European Union are doing so much when it comes to resettlement of refugees. And we are also in our proposal, having a proposal to step up on that with the new community-sponsored resettlement. To be able to have fewer irregular arrivals, we need to fight the human smugglers. These are well-organized criminal networks that are earning a lot of money by smuggling people into the European Union. And at the same time, a lot of people have to risk their lives. This is not how it should be done. And that's, as Margaritia just pointed out, the importance of working very close together with third countries, with our partner countries, to fight the smuggling together. We also need to focus more on returns, and that's, you can see in our package today, there's a lot of new initiatives when it comes to be more effective on returns, and I'm coming back to that. One of the importance is, of course, to have good readmission agreements with third countries, and that's going to be prioritized. I will go through how we should address the problems and the challenges that we are facing. And as Margaritia rightly said, we had to have a lot of dialogues with member states, with parliament, with other stakeholders, to listen, where are the shortcomings without a common European migration and asylum system. And these we are addressing in our proposal to be able to manage migration better. Of course, it's fundamental to defend the right to apply for asylum. And that means that it's also fundamental how we protect our borders, that we do it in a way that is in compliance with the Geneva Convention and the right to apply for asylum. We will propose a new monitoring and independent monitoring mechanism for all member states to implement, and in guidance with the European Agency for Fundamental Rights, to make sure that they are not being pushed back at the borders. When an irregular arrival comes to the European Union, there will be a mandatory screening process. This will take maximum 5 days. There you will do the registration, of course, into the Eurodac, and in Eurodac we will have much more information with our new proposal than in the current one. You can find out also whether this person has been in Europe before, for example, and already have a decision maybe. There will also be security checks, health checks, and a decision on which country is responsible for this application and which kind of procedure should this person go through. If these asylum applicants have a connection to another member state, like having a sibling there, have been working there, have studied there, then the other member state is responsible for the application and to process that. If the person is coming from a country with a very low recognition rate, under 20%, and is not a family with small children, is not an unaccompanied minor, is not a person with medical needs, then this person should go to a border procedure. And this border procedure has the same rights for the person to have his or her application processed in a proper and fair way. But it has to be done very quickly. And I think that many of those will have a negative decision, but not all of them. Some will have a positive, and then, of course, they have the asylum in the country. Why do we do this? We do this because it would make it easier for voluntary returns. I think when a person has been living in a country for years, having relations, falling in love, then it's much more difficult, both for the individual and for the authorities, to do the return to the country of origin. It's important that we can have this decision of returns very quickly, in 12 weeks, and then also be able to do the returns. This is also an important message, that you will be returned if you are coming to the European Union and do not have the right to stay. And I think this is what the European citizens ask from us. I think they say, well, we are ready to welcome those in need of international protection. We are ready to welcome those that have the legal right to work or study in our union. But those do not have the legal right to stay. They have to go back. And this is what we are really focusing on in our proposal. If, as Margaritia said, it's also important that we have a solidarity mechanism. Of course, all member states have to deal with migration because migration is a normal thing. But there could be a situation where the migration pressure is high or risk of being high. And then there is a possibility to activate the solidarity mechanism. And as President von der Leyen just said a few minutes ago, solidarity is not optional. Everybody has to contribute to the solidarity. But there are some possibilities to choose in what way to show your solidarity. The two main ways to show solidarity is either via relocation of those probably in need of international protection, or with a new return sponsorship, where member states are helping each other to actually do the returns of those not eligible to stay and make sure that they will be reintegrated in their country of origin. This solidarity mechanism will also work for search and rescue cases. Search and rescue is a responsibility for the member states or the coastal states, of course. And saving lives is, of course, always essential and always our obligation. But we must also make sure that when persons that have been saved, search and rescued and saved at sea are being disembarked in the European Union, they are being disembarked in the European Union, not only in a member state. And that's why we need this solidarity, showing that also other member states must help with the relocation of people that are being disembarked through search and rescue, or in other ways supporting the member state where they are being disembarked. I will end with what's also important here, is that we should have more predictability. And I think today in college, one of our colleagues told the story of 13 unaccompanied minors coming to her country, being relocated from Lesbos and being welcomed. And I think there is such a huge difference when you have the names of those coming, when you know what flight they are coming with. It's so much easier for a country to welcome these and to have a swift integration. It's the unpredictability, it's much more difficult to deal with. And this is our aim, to have more of a Europeanized system where we help each other to have a more predictability in the system, so that we should not be surprised, so we can deal with the situation before they become a crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Yes, the Vice President wishes to add something.
Dana, if you give me the floor before the question, simply to say that I apologize, because the film Back to the Future is a film by Zemeckis, not by Spielberg, as I said. So, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. On Hollywood, I'm not that strong.
With that clarification, I now open the floor to your questions. At this stage, we will try to keep the questions focused on the subject of the press conference, on the Migration and Asylum Pact. As always, please indicate in the system by raising your hand if you wish to ask a question. I see quite a number of them already raised, so the first question will be for David. David, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dana. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. J'ai une première question pour le vice-président Schinas à propos de Moria. Parce que dans votre rôle précédent, en 2016, mars 2016, vous avez annoncé une armée de fonctionnaires européens pour aider les îles grecques, la Grèce, a implémenté la déclaration Union européenne-Turquie, donc à tenir les migrants sur les îles. 1500 gardes frontières de Frontex, 400 experts EASO, 400 interprètes, 30 juges, des bateaux, des avions. Et en 5 ans, vous avez versé à la Grèce 2,6 milliards d'euros. Donc, ma question est très simple. Vous avez dit Moria, c'est la cause de l'absence de l'Europe. Comment expliquez-vous que cette aide européenne n'a pas produit de résultats? My second question is for Commissioner Johansson. I mean, if I go back to what the Commission proposed and other actors, member states and so on, I can find a lot of points that are in this new or fresh start. The Malta Agreement is more or less the same of the relocation for search and rescue system that you are proposing. The flexible relocation or flexible solidarity is the same of the effective solidarity proposed by the Slovak presidency in 2016. I can go on with the new migration partnership framework for the third countries proposed in June 2016, with the incentive and disincentive to readmit migrants. Even the border procedure that you are announcing, I can see a lot of elements that should have been applied in Moria and the Greek island because Turkey was considered a safe country. So what is really new in your proposal? Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mr. President.
Okay, let me start on Moria and Lesbos. When the fire occurred in Lesbos, in Moria, which was of course a tragedy, we were, oddly enough, in a rather virtuous path because arrivals were very low or non-existent, and with the help of the Hellenic authorities and our partners and member states, we have managed to bring down the overall population from 25,000 to around 12,000 when the fire broke out. And we had also managed to relocate unaccompanied minors. Practically all of them, the 400 final ones, came out after the fire. So probably one should not underestimate that a lot of work has been done already there before the fire. And of course, always the good is the enemy of the better, and things may have been done differently, and the implementation of the EU-Turkey agreement would have been faster. But still, even if all this had happened, that would have never changed the fundamental, which is Moria is a symptom of a system that is a non-system. It's something that is there because precisely there is nothing else to prevent it from being there. And this something else is what we're doing today. The overall amount of EU support to Greece is 2.5, not only to Moria, not only on Lesbos, and I think it's an argument now that is verging on the fake news. We never paid 2.5 billion for Lesbos. This is the overall envelope, including all reception centers in the whole country, including subsidies for rent for thousands of migrants. So I would plead not to oversimplify on issues that are so delicate and so polarizing. I would also make a call for a more sober approach. And one should not forget, David, that we still have around more than 400 people on Lesbos. People from EASO, people from Europol, people from Frontex. I saw them, I met them, I was there. They are dedicated European civil servants doing the best they can to help a very difficult situation. And the task force that the College announced today is precisely yet another attempt to Europeanize the management of this very difficult situation in a way that helps both the the refugee population and migrants, the local authorities and the national authorities. Now, Ilva will reply to you on what is new, but let me tell you how surprised I am that in less than an hour you managed to digest 10 legislative texts and come to the conclusions that there is nothing new and that everything is reheated. I always admire your approach to things, but this is well commenting. No, this is new. This is really new. And I know, and I have suffered it for many years, that in this city and in this bubble, there is what I would like to call an intellectual appeal of pessimism. That if in Brussels you are a pessimist, somehow it's okay. It's people deal with you, like you. You trend. I am of the school of the intellectual appeal of optimism. And I think that it's our duty to emit a signal of optimism today with this new beginning.
Thank you. I will answer to your question. You are wrong. There are not these old building blocks into the new ones. All of the building blocks that we have in this proposal are new ones. It's not, the border procedures are not linked to safe countries. The Malta Declaration is not in there, but there is a solidarity towards search and rescue cases and disembarkation. The solidarity has some flexibility, but it's not totally flexible. It's mandatory to show solidarity, and you can choose between return sponsorship and relocation. But you're also right in one way, because managing migration is not rocket science. It's being dealt with all the time and for all times. But what the thing is that we're not managing migration well enough in the European Union. And that's because we are lacking the common approach and the common balanced legislation. And this is really what's new here, that this is a balanced approach. And I guess that we will have 27 member states, that none of them are satisfied with our proposal. But I think that we will have 27 member states and Parliament that will say, it's worth working on this. It's a balanced proposal. And this is new.